Dang it. We need more games anyways. Speaking of, when are you getting a new game? We're only able to get that because Crash said you could come back. When are you getting your sequel? It's not your fault. We'll wait. And can I just say, I'm pretty glad you were all able to actually celebrate Christmas together. Even you over here that didn't want to sit with everybody else. And you all more or less got what you wanted, so I think it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I haven't opened the gift from Max yet. Speaking of, where is Max?
I killed an asshole! This is great snap.
That's interesting. You'll have to tell him we missed him and that he should come around next time. Alright, let's see what he got me. I'll remember to get him something next year. Okay, that's interesting. Oh. Hey. You got a game before Spyro got a sequel. Well, perfect. I was just saying how we needed more games around here. Let's check it out. You're coming with me. Welcome back to my studio, and this time we're talking about something a little different today. I'm going to be looking at a video game adaptation instead of a movie. Now, I was interested in talking about this game as soon as I saw it was being released, but its release time was a little weird. It came out in the middle of October, which I guess that was so people could buy it and give it to their kid for Christmas. Well, they could have still released later. I don't know. Really weird release date. If it was closer to December, then people would be like, oh, let me buy this for my kid to play for Christmas, or give to them for Christmas, it'll make more sense. But the release window, it's like kind of overlooked. And it comes from this publisher I never really heard of called Outright Games, but they've apparently become the studio to do these weird adaptations. This game got released on all the major platforms right now. I happened to go with the Switch version as I felt that was more right in terms of who the audience was going to be. Because the way I see it, the Switch definitely seems like the family/kids console, so it makes sense that that would probably be the most definitive version, unless of course you already had an Xbox or a PlayStation set up in the living room. But if this is the kind of game you're buying your kid, you probably want to give them that little Switch so they can go run off somewhere else so you can get the big TV. Something I was curious about when I was looking into this game was, what about Grinch games that came before this? And it turns out there's actually a couple. The first big one was simply called The Grinch. Came out on the Dreamcast, PlayStation, Windows, and even had a Game Boy Color port. This one, however, was based more on the live-action movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas starring Jim Carrey. And if you take a look at the game, you can see the resemblance. The game revolves around pranking Who's and stealing Christmas. Makes sense. It's a 3D platformer and it looks pretty on par for the era, even though from what I was reading it wasn't exactly all that great, but I mean, it was a movie tie-in game. Couldn't always expect a whole lot out of those, no matter what point in time you are. And then we go some years later, we get yet another Grinch game, this time for the Nintendo DS. Weirdly enough, in reading about it, it says it's based on the book, but more so the movie, which I don't see why, as this game came out 7 years after the movie. It looks almost nothing like the movie, except maybe that the Grinch has those overalls that he gets later, the suspenders. It looks pretty boring though. Like, I've found a couple long plays on YouTube that are about 40 minutes, and it just looks like a crappy Flash game. The gameplay keeps repeating itself. It looks like it's all just based around stealing stuff out of the Who's houses, trying to not get caught, and moving on to the next one. Keep doing it. And that seems to be a recurring theme across all these games as we go into the newest Christmas adventures. Now I'd understand if you missed it. So I'm also on Twitch, and I decided to stream my experience with this game, and that's how I gathered all my footage. So every now and then you're gonna cut from me to me streaming, talking about the game in real time, to see my initial reaction to it. And here we go, The Grinch Christmas Adventures on Nintendo Switch. I'm not gonna lie, the game looks alright, and I say that because for a modern title, it looks bad. It looks a little more like a mobile game than a full release, which this game came out at a price point of $40. Luckily, I was able to get it on sale at GameStop, brand new by the way, it was not a pre-owned copy. Brand new from GameStop for $25. I don't know if that deal's still going on, but I think that was the best way to get this, as you can still get refunds at GameStop if you really don't like the thing, which with the holidays coming, I think they understand. The game has a total of 3 worlds: the caves, countryside, Whoville. And the reason that took me so long to say is because that's how long it takes to switch between the screens of each world, and you can't do that until you've unlocked them all. And that's another thing that's going to pop up in this game, is that things move slow. With these 3 worlds, there's a total of 6 levels in each one, making our grand total 18. And just to start off, this game is really easy, but pretty annoying. Essentially, the game is a 2.5D platformer, meaning it's like a traditional 2D platformer that scrolls left and right, but every once in a while there are some elements of depth going into the background and foreground of the level. Right off the bat, the controls do not feel good. The Grinch feels really stiff, he doesn't seem all that responsive, going between running and jumping doesn't exactly work. I was noticing a weird thing where I had to stop running to do the jump, and when he'd land from the jump, he would stop before you could start walking again. It's not as continuous and fluid as something like Mario, which is kind of the gold standard if you're going to make a platformer. The main draw of this game is going to be that it's the Grinch and that it's a Christmas video game, so you can feel a little festive and still get your gamer time in, but this is just not the game for it. Now that I've established the game not being all that great, just opening up, let's get into the actual levels. Now the level design. As you get into this game, it starts off pretty basic, makes sense as you're starting in a tutorial part, but as you get further into it, it's pretty bland and little repetitive. There's not a whole lot of creative platforming, no interesting trails. I did miss stuff in my first runs of some levels simply because I bought the wrong gadget, which is another element I'm about to bring up. Throughout the game, you'll unlock things by collecting these puzzle pieces. This is your main collectible. The presents mean absolutely nothing. If you just want to make it from the very beginning to the end, you just need to collect all the puzzle pieces, as that what unlocks the abilities and gadgets that you need to complete certain parts of different levels. So really, you could play this whole game ignoring the presents, but the fact that they're all on the trail to the end of each level, you'll get most of them regardless. So as you finish levels, it'll tell you how many puzzle pieces you got. Collect enough puzzle pieces, you get to complete a puzzle. And these are really annoying. So it's not you get to solve the puzzle, you just see the picture, you have the tiles, and you put the right piece in the right tile to make the picture. When you finally get to finish that puzzle because of how long it takes to put the thing together, you unlock the ability that you selected. So each puzzle is a different ability. So the first puzzle you get to do is either a double jump or a candy cane lasso. I, for some reason, made the mistake of picking double jump first, so on the next level, right after having enough pieces for the first ability, I needed the candy cane lasso. I couldn't even get to certain parts of the level because I picked the wrong ability. So if you decide to play this for some reason, go with the lasso first, go with gadgets before abilities. I'll say that. The way it works out is that each time you have a different set of abilities you can pick, but you have to go in a certain order. So starting from here, you have the option of these two, unlock them both, you get this, and then you go into these, get all 3, you go here, get all 2, you go here, 3, there, yeah, that's it. Pretty simple tree right there. Now the candy cane lasso is not a bad gadget, but it's one of those things that's so specific. Because he like kind of throws it out, which I also don't know where it comes from, it's really weird looking. You whip out the lasso and catch onto those to swing or climb to wherever you need to go. I wish it also worked as an attack, just so you can get rid of enemies before you even get near them, but no, doesn't do much else. The other lame part about this are the enemies. There's not really many ways to combat them, and there's not that many to really pose a threat. I was hoping more of the gadgets would be a weapon of some sort, but you don't even get one until the end, so you just have to jump on a few of them if they're actually in your way. There's really not that many enemies and obstacles. There's the guys that run at you, the little nutcrackers, you have the spiders swinging off the ceilings, you have the giant ornaments that swing back and forth, and then you just have platforms that move, and there's a chance of falling into a pit. The double jump is pretty nice because there's a weird mechanic where the Grinch will catch ledges and climb up them, and it's really slow for him to do so. To avoid that, I got the double jump and I was able to make most of the jumps without having to grab the ledge. So the first set of levels, the caves, I can't really say much about it going into each one other than just the world as a whole, so I'm going to do that. So the idea of the caves at the beginning is this is the Grinch leaving his cave hideout to go down to Whoville. So you spend the first 6 levels not even stealing from the Who's, even though that's kind of the point of the game. You're trying to get out of the Grinch's home and off the mountain. That's the whole beginning of the game, is just trying to get out of the Grinch's lair, which is really weird. I don't get how story-wise that made sense to them to make that this long, but hey, I guess I had to pad the playtime somehow. Another reason I didn't really like the cave part being this long, if anything maybe should have been like 1, most 2 levels, is it's just ugly. A lot of it is just brown rocks and dark colors. It's not that interesting except for the decorations and enemies they throw in. I didn't think they were going to use it yet because we're not down in Whoville, but there are segments where you are breaking in the houses and stealing presents. Only there's no Who's just yet. Instead, it's walking gingerbread men. Why are they living here? Why are there gingerbread people? So the stealth element of this game takes place anytime you go into a house. In the house, you're trying to get all the presents. Sometimes there's a puzzle piece in there, and and then you get back out on the other side to continue the level. Now the reason the Grinch has to hide is not because he's going to be attacked by the residents of the home. No. Whether it's Gingerbread Man or who, they will try to hug him. There's no exit! There's no exit! No! No! So because everyone in this world's overly friendly to a home invader, that's what brings in the stealth. And it's not great. It's really easy to not get caught, even just running around. The only part I found annoying and difficult is trying to go up and down stairs, as you can't look ahead to see if there's anyone on the stairs or coming down them before you go on them. There was a couple times I managed to get trapped on the stairs because I couldn't get around them, and that's a point where I was pretty annoyed by the 2.5D perspective on this. If there was a way I could have jumped off the stairs off the side or something more often, then maybe it would have worked, but because that's not possible, I got hug trapped a couple times. But I mean, saying later on, you telling me Mr. Grinch didn't want some female who, like, hugging up on him? Like, come on, man. Another ability you have constantly throughout the game from the very beginning is being able to control Max. And this also functions as the second player if you decide to play this game in co-op. Max doesn't have any abilities besides he's faster, he has a big jump, and he's able to get through smaller gaps that the Grinch can't. This gets used a few times to open doors or go through alternate trails, and a few times in the houses, I would switch to Max to pick up the presents or puzzle pieces because the people in the house will not go after him. It's one of those co-op games where I guess it works if you got a little kid that doesn't really know what they're doing on their own, but they still want to play, so it's good for that, I guess. After you get the candy cane lasso and double jump, the next thing you unlock is a snowboard. What's funny about this thing, it's not something you just pull out in the middle of a level. This is just having the ability to play the last level at the end of the world. Now the way each world is going to work, the first 5 levels before that last one are going to be just simple platforming levels. So at the end of the cave world, it's a bit of like one of those crash levels where if you're coming towards the screen and running away from something, you can only move left and right. Now I found these levels to be the most fun levels in the game, and there's only 2. There's only 2 of these because this is how they end the first and second worlds, is on the snowboard. And you only get to enjoy that twice, and they're very short. If there was more of those, I probably would have had a lot more fun with this game, but it probably would have been a lot shorter with how they designed them. One thing I will say about snowboard levels, I missed presents on the first go just because I didn't know which lane to expect them in. There's only 3 lanes to pick through, but it's a little difficult figuring out which one you need to be on to get the collectibles. So I did end up having to replay them a couple times just because I missed that one present because I was on the wrong side the whole time. Now on to the countryside. So I guess this is based between the mountain and Whoville. So you're about right here in the middle. Now we're actually starting to see Who houses, and we're finally out of the ugly caves. Now we get to enjoy a winter aesthetic. It's a bit like a journey through the woods. It's a lot more of the same. It's a little harder at this point as there's more platforms, more things moving around. The more interesting part to talk about is the unlockables. Now at this point you have to unlock your Grinchy disguise to be able to go into Whoville. So your first 2 options in this tree are Santa's boots and hat. This just adds the clothing to the Grinch so you're not just a naked green guy running around. You'll get the hat, you'll get the boots, you know, the most important parts to not be in the nude. And then your first heart upgrade. I thought it was kind of cute, cool that they use the heart too small to use your health. So each time you get hit, your heart shrinks. Which that sounds really terrifying, but you don't have that many hits until you start unlocking them. And the last 2 things you'll be getting by the point you're getting into Whoville are Santa's jacket and the jetpack. Santa's jacket completes the outfit, and then the jetpack just gives you bigger jumps that are kind of needed on a couple parts in the later levels. I will say Whoville is definitely the best looking levels because you're actually in the town that you're supposed to be familiar with from the story. But once you're in Whoville, you get that combination of snow level and just having all these fancy cartoon houses everywhere. It's pretty fun to look at, and there's a couple more things introduced. There's a couple new enemies, but it's just like modified versions of the spiders and whatnot. The spiders get replaced by Christmas decorations, and then you have a Christmas tree that falls over to try to land on the player, and the only way to take that out is to jump on it, kind of Mario style. But this part of the level is a lot more fun to look at, a little more annoying to play because there's a lot more vertical moments. It felt like in this third world there was a lot more houses to break into. It just seemed to be back-to-back houses, which was a little annoying because that was the most frustrating part of the game to play, just because of how it forces you to pace yourself. And it's not in a good way either, because like I said, it's not that hard to survive. And the final things you're unlocking in this stage are Santa's sleigh, snowballs, and the second heart upgrade. The thing with the snowballs is while it is technically an attack, all it does when you land it is it freezes the enemy so it's easier to jump on them, and they can't hurt you if you run into them while they're frozen. They do eventually unfreeze themselves, but it takes long enough that doesn't really matter because you're going to be past them or have already taken them out by the point they would have melted. Santa's sleigh pretty much functions the same way as the snowboard, as it's just having the ability to play that last level. This time though, Santa's sleigh is for the final level of the game. The funny thing about Santa's sleigh, it's going in the opposite direction of the snowboard. Instead of coming towards the screen, you're going away from it. And this time, instead of avoiding obstacles, you are trying to give back the presents you have stolen throughout the game, which would have been pretty cool if the number of presents was accurate to how many you actually took at this point, but I think they just chose a random number and rolled with it. The first time I went through it, I thought you're just supposed to throw one present per house. No, you're just trying to chuck all these out into the houses. But there is a chance that you run into these houses and take some damage. When I had realized there were still puzzle pieces to collect on this and I was missing them, I started purposely running into the houses to see if it would reset me. No. The way it resets you is just, it puts you at a random point back in the level and you just keep going. There's no checkpoints on it at all or anything. So if you die, you're just going to end up in a different spot each time, and you'll finish the level anyway. Once you actually give away all the presents and you have all the puzzle pieces, you can unlock the last item on your skill tree, which is the feast, the final puzzle. And I didn't bring it up. Each little tier you go up, the puzzles get bigger, meaning not that they're harder, they take longer to complete, because the little cursor only moves so fast. And the final puzzle is huge. It took me, I think, nearly 3 minutes just to finish the puzzle because of how slow the pieces were moving. And all this unlocks you is the final little graphic of the Grinch partying with the Who's and being able to play the game in mirror mode. I did not do that. Unless you're on something like Xbox, PlayStation, or Steam and you're an achievement hunter, there's no reason to play the mirror mode because it's all the levels you had already played mirrored, and I don't get the appeal in doing that gameplay wise because you're just getting the same level again. It's gonna feel different, I guess, but it's just more of the same garbage we've been dealing with up to this point. So I'll say I beat the game. I saw some people saying you could beat this in 2 hours, maybe 4. Most people seem to beat it around the 3-hour mark. And you can go as far as 8 hours if you were to decide to go through and play it in the mirrored mode. Which it kind of pains me to say, it's not as fun as I had hoped it would be. I was really hoping for just a fun, basic platformer, but no, it's just really slow, hard to play. It looks alright, it's got the Christmas aesthetic, but graphically it's not impressive for the year we're in. There's definitely better stylized games at this point. This is not one of them. So it kind of hurts me to say, but I cannot recommend this game no matter who you are. And you know what, just to summarize everything, I think Streamer Me put it best. So I'm gonna play the clip right here. Wow. Alright, final verdict on this game. I mean, it looks okay for a modern title. It looks bad. It's definitely just for kids, so I think this makes absolute sense as a Switch title over for any other console. Not very good. I didn't feel that Christmassy playing it, honestly. I mean, I felt Grinchy, I guess, because it was pissing me off. It's just so repetitive, a little boring. Even the Grinch was done. You saw it? He just offed himself. His soul's going to heaven. Okay. Oh, God, I didn't want him. I guess he's cool with that. Okay. Not a very good game, not even really for kids. It's a horrible starter platform because of how awkwardly the controls are. I'm going to retire the Grinch Christmas Adventures and let my Switch have some much needed rest. I think I had more fun with it because I was streaming. I feel like this is something I could really only have fun with if I had someone else with me, either on the couch or just talking me along with it while I played through it just because I felt like it. It's one of those games. There's definitely better games to play during this time. There's tons of Christmas games, tons of games with Christmas themed levels, and well, this just isn't one of them. That was interesting. Hope that wasn't too harsh on you, Grinch. You have something else for me? To Shyboy from the Grinch. Well, thank you, Mr. Grinch. I was kind of scared that the bloody thing was the only thing that got me. I definitely prefer something not so scary. Oh, the original story. Thank you, Grinch. You know, getting caught up in you showing up unannounced, trying to kill me, having the evil beat out of you, and then just having a good time with everybody else. I forgot to get you something, so I want to give you this. Maybe you can keep the spirit of Christmas with you every day now, too. But you know what? All in all, this was pretty great. You know what? Come here. We're going to read this story together. Yeah, right there. But before doing so, we need to say bye to the lovelies over there. So for the last time in 2023, if you enjoyed what you saw, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video. I am Shyboy616. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I will see you next time.